All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 27th, 2023 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Advisory Commission. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much, everyone. And with that, we'll turn to item 3. And Mrs. Vasquez, please call the roll.
Commissioner Callahan,
Present.
Commissioner Amell,
Present.
Chair Pletcher,
Here.
and Commissioner Orozco and Vice Chair Hayek are absent.
Thank you. And Commissioner Hayek or Vice Chair Hayek doing double duty tonight. He's on the General Plan Committee, Advisory Committee as well. So certainly wish that meeting well tonight as they keep moving that forward. Moving on to item 4, our public comments. Mrs. Vasquez, please make the public comment announcement.
This is the time and place for public comments. Registration for public comments is available for those wishing to address the Traffic Commission regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for specific agenda items shall be called and heard during that specific item. All remarks should be addressed to the Traffic Commission as a whole. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the Traffic Commission unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city engineer for administrative follow-up. No individuals have requested to speak on this item, and pursuant to Traffic Commission standards, public comment speakers are allowed 3 minutes. And also for the record, no written statements have been submitted for this item. Also, please silence all cell phones during the meeting, and please remember to mute your microphones when you are not speaking.
Thank you. And I actually think we have one written statement card from a Mr. Stemmen. Is that correct, sir? Yeah. Perfect. We'll go ahead and pass that to staff and have them take a look at it. And no problem, sir. I'll make sure to get that over to staff right now. All right, and with that, we are on to item 5, our summary notes of the previous meeting. Do we have any comments on the summary notes from any of the members of the commission? Okay, hearing none. We will jump right into item 6, the first of our engineers report. A is an update on the city's Walk and Bike to School campaign, www.walktoschoolto.org. Report by our Director of Strategic Communications and Public Affairs, Miss Alexandra South. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair and Commission. Thank you. My name is Alexandra South. I am the city's Director of Strategic Communications and Public Affairs, and I am here tonight to share with you a little bit about our new toolkit for the community to encourage alternative routes to schools. So areas that perhaps have some opportunities for walking and biking, other modes of transportation to help reduce traffic. And so we put this toolkit together with the intention of it being something that the community themselves can use to organize. Using kind of grassroots techniques, people can host neighborhood meetings. They can gather together to understand what their neighborhood needs in order to help build some community buy-in in walking to school. We built out some branding around it, as well as a comprehensive website that covers a variety of different topics, safety tips, as well as how to plan a route to school that best suits your individual neighborhood. There are several links to national websites that look for opportunities to create paths that reduce the amount of interaction between pedestrians and traffic, as well as other ways to engage people and get them excited to build walking buses or riding buses and joining together to really build that effort. People can work with their schools, they can just work amongst themselves, but really the key here is building a sense of community. Walking, biking, different ways of getting to school really helps build camaraderie, and it helps neighbors connect and build stronger relationships, but it also starts the day or ends the day in a really positive way, getting some physical activity in and getting kids really excited about this process of getting to and from school in what almost feels like an old-fashioned way to so many of us now. And certainly there are other challenges, school of choice being one, where people do drive their children to school. And, of course, we can't get everybody to walk to school, but there are definitely opportunities in every neighborhood. The website itself is fully responsive, mobile friendly, works on any device, provides a lot of different resources, and is easily shareable. We included a variety of printable materials that people can print out and distribute door to door, even if they want to. Sometimes grassroots efforts do require a little footwork, if you will, so that you can get out the information to lots of different people, regardless of what access they have. The website itself, as I mentioned, covers a variety of topics where we really deep dive in a way that we hadn't really before on the city website is into our crossing guard program. The site contains a lot of information. It's very comprehensive when it comes to the crossing guards, their trainings, policies. It also gives some real-time information about our staffing levels, and then the different intersections or crossings that do or do not meet the current standards. And so this gives you at a glance look at where you may be having some trouble with some of the intersections if there aren't enough people utilizing that space. And so with the new minimum standards, it did increase the number of locations that qualified for a crossing guard. But as you can see, there are several that could be at risk of losing a crossing guard because there's just simply not enough traffic. So this really helps people focus on the areas that need it the most. Because it's an in-house build, we are extremely agile. It's something that we can continue to build and create just this living, breathing tool as we get feedback from the community on resources that worked or maybe weren't so great, and then ideas that the community brings to us. If something they implemented in their neighborhood worked particularly well, we have the ability to add that to our website, and we can incorporate and expand the information and resources available to the community. That concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. South. We'll turn to commissioner questions. Does any member of the commission have any questions for staff? Sir?
Thank you for the report, Ms. South. I think the website's a really good idea. I had a question which was a little bit unrelated to the website, though, which is there outreach directly with the schools to promote the idea of walk to school? Because there's not a lot of kids that may find this website. So
Correct. They probably won't. It'd be great if they did, though. But yes, so we reached out immediately to the school district themselves. So they've distributed it widely through their digital newsletters. It's featured on their website. And we're looking for other opportunities in different spaces that they can incorporate it. And, really what will be the most effective technique, while we're sharing it on our social media here and there, which is pretty robust, we're really asking the community, interested parties, to start taking this message back to their communities and their neighborhood groups, and really start looking for opportunities to engage in this type of a process. We've also engaged CRPD. They've helped share some of this messaging as well. And so we're going to continue to work down those different avenues to keep pushing out this kind of grassroots approach.
Any other questions?
No, that's it from me. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to make sure. Sorry. Commissioner.
Just a quick comment. Thank you for your work on this. It's really impressive, and I think it's going to go a long way, and hopefully we'll see some increase, walk counts, and just thank you. It's really great.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
So just if any members of the audience wish to speak, they have to fill out a public comment card, and then I can call you. I know it's a lot of writing, but we have to go through that process. I'm happy to have you if I have a public comment card, and I can call you just as far as the process. So thank you very much for the presentation. I certainly agree, and I think the best part of the website, really is twofold. One is the being able to create safe walking routes to school based on where you live, really is a first. Secondly is that real-time kind of information on the crossing guards. Because in talking to, I went and attended the Conejo Valley Unified's, their DAC meeting, which is their District Advisory Council. And it's essentially, for those who don't know, it's a council made up of individual representatives. They're PTA representatives or parents from each individual school. They get together and they sit and they have a meeting. I gave some public comment on this and told them about the website. And the feedback I got was tremendous, but the feedback really was kind of a twofold approach. Is one, we didn't know that this website even existed, which was great. So I highly would encourage you to come to one of the meetings and give a presentation. I've also talked to the chair and wanting the school district to actually do a formal invitation, put it on the agenda, and just to be able to even do this. Two, the other comment was the locations where, from parents, the locations where we've struggled to staff have, in their opinion, cost some of the parents from even considering sending their kids walking to school because they didn't know if a crossing guard would be there that particular day. So I think it's such a crucial part of the website, and I'll be sure to, in talking to parents, to bring their attention that that's where they can find. But I mean, as far as I know, we're fully staffed on all our sites now, which is great. I really didn't have much more other than, to say thank you for putting this together. I think it's crucial. I saw the video, I think today on Instagram that we put out, which was great. And I think, really just comes down to, you're right, that getting that parent buy-in, the PTA buy-in, and, I'm out spreading the word accordingly. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it over one more time. Any commissioner further comments? Okay. So we do have one written, let's see, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Just to confirm, Mrs. Vasquez, we have no public speakers for this item, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and we do have one written statement card. Ms. Ballinger, which I will make sure gets entered into the record and handed over to staff. Let's see. So I don't think there's any other further discussion. And with that, I'll close the item to public comments, open it to any discussion, which I don't think we have any, and we'll just go ahead and move on to item 6B. So thank you very much, Ms. South. I appreciate it. Item B is an update on our pedestrian and bicycle e-bike safety and enforcement. Sergeant Matt Oganowski of our Thousand Oaks Police Department. I think I got the last name right, sir?
Nobody gets that. So
We'll get there.
I'm already offended. Have a lot of information to cram in. Obviously, all the codified work with in the vehicle code and then the city code. Anybody to memorize, I can't remember. Okay, so I was asked to come address the ped safety.
I'm not sure your mic's on, sir. Sorry about that.
All right. Okay.
Good. There we are.
go. Was asked to discuss our pedestrian safety operations, bicycle safety, and then how we're kind of getting along with e-bikes and electric motorcycles. So I'll just dive in. You'll notice on my handout, the first thing is a news article about the city of Carlsbad seeing a 200 and some % increase in collisions with e-bikes, electric motorcycles, fatalities, injury collisions, and they declared a state of emergency. When I first got into this, I thought, let's take a look at, is it happening in other cities, right? And obviously I'm not advocating for a state of emergency, but you can kind of see what's coming, and we're not the only city that's seeing a huge increase in the proliferation of electric bikes, class 1, 2, and 3, electric motorcycles, and of course the potential for injuries out there. So just to kind of make the commission aware that this is not just happening in Thousand Oaks, it's happening in a couple different places. But we'll get into, if you look at the handout, we'll get into some of the differences. So, we'll get into, I think at the end, how Thousand Oaks PD Traffic Bureau is addressing this through education and enforcement. But a lot of people don't know the differences and what's out there. So I thought I'd just briefly get into that. And then, of course, it's a lot of information. So I'll open up to questions when we're done. So we have a lot of things going on. And we had a collision earlier this year in Dos Vientos where 3 juveniles were riding. Well, it came out as an e-bike, but what really was an electric motorcycle and not certified for highway use. And of course, the collision, we thought we'd have possibly 1, maybe 2 fatals, and we got lucky, and all of them survived. So that kind of brought it up to light. So we found out that most law enforcement, and we're no exception, we're really unfamiliar with the different classes of e-bikes and what was out there. So if you look at electric bicycles, and I'll refer to our educational handout. It's a 3-page handout we give out to the school district. We send out in flyers, mailers. We make it in our public events. We pass this out. And what we came up with is, class 1. What is a class 1? Hey, low speed, pedal assist, 20 miles an hour is the governed maximum speed for these electric vehicles. They are considered bicycles. I found out most of them are governed at 19 or 19 and a half. They won't actually hit 20 on the safe side. Class 2 just adds, it's really the same characteristics with a few differences, like instead of pedal assist, you could have a throttle. So that's it. And then class 3, we have a little bit more velocity. We have a 28 mile an hour cap. And then we treat class 1 and class 2 electric bikes as far as enforcement and as far as TOPD traffic as bicycles. They are bicycles. They're nothing less. They're reportable in collisions. We have to investigate collisions with them as we would any bike. They're considered vehicles by the penal code and their definition, and they are reportable for all injury and non-injury collisions, especially involving either on their own or motor vehicles. Class 3 is a little bit different. As far as the enforcement is, if you're under 18, you have to wear a helmet, but there really is no rules of the road apply to these bicycles like they would any other vehicle, stop signs, everything else. Class 3 is a little bit a step up. And it's often referred to as a commuter bicycle. And we have a 28 mile an hour cap. And there are some codified requirements in the vehicle code for riding a class 3. It has a higher velocity. So you have to be 16 years or older. There's no exception. Okay, there is no licensing requirements, but you have to be 16. You must always wear a helmet, whether you're an 18-year-old or you're 30-year-old or 40-year-old or a 16-year-old. So the helmets are always there. And then you may not transport passengers. And of course, you can ride the bike lanes with those. Enforcement with the class 3 is difficult. On the outside, there is no difference. that any patrol person in a motorcycle or car can tell it's a class 1, 2, or 3. It's not possible until you conduct a stop and actually look at the bike and what it can do. So we still really, instead of overloading our patrol with a bunch of information, really the directive is these are bicycles. You're probably not going to see a kid on a class 3 and think, well, he's 15 and a half, and we're not going to do that probably. But what really found out is, and we were ignorant to this, is there's a lot of what we would consider for vehicle code definition as electric motorcycles. And that's something totally different. Those are not bicycles. They are illegal, well, not illegal. They're legal vehicles to own, but they're intended for off-highway use. So what I could make a good analogy for an electric motorcycle that we would see in the streets is it would be like someone taking their off-highway dirt bike and riding it down the street. Certainly an illegal vehicle for the street. They're not allowed. They're for off-highway use. There is a few differences. Unlike an off-highway motorcycle, dirt bike, lack of a better term, there's no registration. There's no VIN number, and a lot of these they do have a serial number, but there's no registered owner, and that makes enforcement a little more difficult too. Initially, we started taking these to the station and seizing them as evidence if they were involved in a crime, but now I just started directing to tow. These, if you look at the kind of the page 2, you'll see the prime example is the Sur-Ron. That's what everybody looks at. Very easy to distinguish these electric motorcycles from electric bikes, which we treat as bicycles. The absence of pedals. Some do have pedals, but there's a large electrical engine or electric drive. The Sur-Ron is 48, 50 miles an hour rated new. Obviously, if you put a small juvenile on it, it's going to exceed that speed because the weight falls off. That's for an adult. Most of the kids are buying additional battery packs and upgrades, and now we have 60 and 70 mile an hour Sur-Rons, especially if you put an 80 or 90 pound child on it, right? Most of the people we encounter riding these are under the age of 16. So there's a huge danger with the Sur-Rons and the other electric motorcycles. And obviously with a motorcycle on a highway, there's several issues, right? There's a lot of violations occurring. There's no registration. There's no license plate. They're motorcycles. They don't have headlights. They don't have taillights. They don't have brake lights. They don't have turn signals. There's a million. I can go on and on and on, right? So enforcement becomes very easy with these. They're not allowed to be on the highway. And there's just a ton of stuff we can cite the kids for. We do want to do enforcement with these, but we also want to do education. We'd all agree that if we can educate and keep them off the road in the first place, that's better than any enforcement, better than any citation. With the bikes, with the electric motorcycles, we usually run into some licensing issues too, and that's what really has the teeth in the enforcement. Is they don't have a license, they're too young, and then they're also, if they do have a license, they're out of class. They're now riding a motorcycle on a highway, and we have to have the motorcycle endorsement. And the motorcycle endorsement is important because you're on a motorcycle that does 60 or 50. Now I'll talk about enforcement. It's been a little tricky for TOPD to enforce. I manage the traffic bureau, so my direction is we are a pro towing agency for these motorcycles, and also if it's dangerous, we are a pro impound agency. That can always change with direction from the city. But what we're finding is the flagrant disregard for traffic laws. For instance, and I'll bring up one example, and it's we see the Sur-Rons and the kids are on them, and it's usually a group of 2, 3, 4, 6 people sometimes. Ask them to stop, and they don't stop. We get flipped off, and then all of a sudden it's 60 miles an hour down Teal Boulevard or Hillcrest or something else, very dangerous conditions. Or they'll stop, we stop, they take off again. And we can only play this game so long. Any deputy in a patrol Tahoe is not going to catch anybody on a Sur-Ron who knows what they're doing. Or they'll take off on one of our many trails, or they'll take off down between houses, down the sidewalk where we're not going to chase them and we can't. I've also directed my guys that obviously we're not going to get in any kind of pursuit where the public's in danger over something like this, right? It's not a pursuit. It's not something we're going to pursue. So if we get flagrant disregard for traffic laws, if we get completely unsafe behavior that puts the public in danger, puts the juvenile in danger, I'm telling my guys to impound for 30 days. And the way we do that is when you drive without a license and you've never been issued a driver's license and you're driving a vehicle, we'll seize your car and impound it for 30 days. Now, I'll tell people, as soon as you get your license, I'll release the car. Not a problem. We want people to get their licenses. For the juveniles who get pulled over that are respectful, who were not aware they were breaking the law. And when the parents show up, they're, oh my God, I bought this. I thought it was an electric bicycle. I'm so sorry. I know we can reach those people, and I'll typically either release the bike to the parent or we will tow and they can get out of the tow yard the same day or the next day. So there's several options. And of course, if you can weigh in on at the end, if you've had some direction too, I'd love to incorporate that. This is virgin territory for us. We really just started the enforcement this year. And if they do have helmets, by the way, they're typically bicycle helmets, which will not protect them in a crash or a collision. If you're on a motorcycle, they must wear a DOT-approved motorcycle helmet. So I was kind of asked to kind of give you the difference. What's the e-bike? What's the e-motorcycle? And then kind of the second prong is, as the enforcement arm of your local government, what are we doing about it, right? How are we addressing this issue? Certainly, and that's why I put the Carlsbad memo out. We don't want it to be Carlsbad, right? We don't want our city to become the 200 or 300% increase in collisions and fatality. We certainly don't want a fatality, and I don't want any kid crashing on this, and I also don't want them taking off down the trail and colliding with a bicyclist on one of our trails that's a senior citizen and killing them either. I don't want that. We don't want any of this stuff. So how do we get ahead of this before it becomes bad, right? So one way is through outreach. So you'll see that that 3-page information outreach about motorcycles and bicycles, that's what TOPD puts out. It's been refined. It's been changed twice. It'll probably be changed again when new thing comes to light. And then I have a cheat sheet. It gets a little bit down in the weeds. It's probably not something we're going to pass out at the junior high school or something, but if you, a week or two or a month from now, you want to know the differences in how we enforce things, you can take a look at the handout with the bikes on top. There's a class 1, 2, and 3. We got mopeds, motorized scooters, electric bicycles, and we consider, as far as enforcement, we consider these Surons are electric motorcycles. So the enforcement goes along with that. There's a lot of codes we can use to enforce some of these, and then we put a matrix on the back. Hey, what's the minimum age for a class 1 e-bike? There isn't any. What is it for a class 3? Oh, it's 16 if you look at page 3 there. What are the license requirements? What's the helmet requirements? So it's kind of a matrix here, and that might change too. Certainly, the code book that we use, the California Vehicle Code, has not in any way caught up with the proliferation of electric motorcycles, electric bikes. We spoke to the DMV, oh, they're scooters, and then you talk to another person at DMV, oh, they're motorcycles. So it's definitely going to change again, and we'll keep revising this as it changes, and there's going to be issues that just aren't codified yet. So there's a challenge of enforcement. So that's it. We are a pro enforcement when it comes to the riding of electric. Just to let you know, we are a pro enforcement and pro towing and pro impound when it comes to the riding of electric motorcycles by juveniles on city streets. There's no good outcome for that, and they're off-highway bikes only, and we'll take active enforcement with that. So. And I don't recommend that changes anytime soon. I certainly am not changing it. I may change the impound policy where we just don't impound, but for the flagrant disregard for public safety, I'm still recommending a 30-day impound on these bikes. These are $5,000 with the upgrades. They go to 6 to 7. A 30-day impound in the city with our 3 contract tow companies goes from 90 to 110 a day. So you're looking at $3,000, $3,500 for a 30-day impound. Is it stiff? Absolutely. But if we're not getting cooperation and we've been stopped you once or twice, I'm going to impound your bike. So that's just my call. But let's talk about what else we're doing for getting the word out. So I've sent some, Conejo Valley School District, we've sent some mailers out. We've done public outreach. We just had an open house 2 weeks ago. We did the, we'll go to schools, pass out the flyers, talk about e-bikes. Looks like I just got an e-bike that the owner doesn't want anymore, so I have a school prop pretty soon. I'm sorry, a Suron motorcycle. And then we're largely funded by our OTS grant for a lot of specialized enforcement. So through our OTS grant, and I'm just talking about pedestrian and bicycle safety. That's all I'm talking about right now. It does a million things, but we discussed pedestrian safety. We had a pedestrian safety operation last week, and we publicized these through social media, or we put out the press releases. And we will use employees as, I don't want to say decoy, but they will walk out and we'll look for right-of-way violations, or we'll just saturate an area, a school zone, crosswalk, and look for crosswalk violations. Our last operation for pedestrian safety focused on several crosswalks, and we had 11 crosswalk right-of-way tickets violators. This is the first one I can remember where a lot of times we can cite a pedestrian if they're going through a crosswalk unsafely, but this was all vehicles. And every time we do these crosswalk operations, we write an equal amount of cell phone tickets because we also believe that's a contributing factor to collisions in a crosswalk and pedestrian injury collisions. So I cannot do a pedestrian operation and just write pedestrian related tickets. The cell phone always comes up too. So that was the results from last week's. We do 2 of those a year. This month actually was the month of September is pedestrian safety month. So quite frankly, we're out there enforcing pedestrian safety and doing those operations. We choose to do them in September. OTS, the grant that we use, requires us to put out public information about pedestrian safety in the month of September, which we did. And you'll see that's the 3rd or 4th page in the flyer. And that gets not only put out here, but it gets put out countywide. And then I think the last one is our PED safety operation. This is an example of the media release. It looks like this was the February one, but we did one in February. We did one in September. This is an example of the media releases we'll put out to the public before we start any kind of those focused OTS funded operations. But I know it's a lot of stuff to throw at you. Just be assured that it's not just enforcement, it's also warnings, it's also education, it's media, it's getting the word out. Even a detention, a traffic stop is a detention. Even a traffic stop and detention that results in a warning is also enforcement too, and that there's certainly a lot of that going on too. Goal is not to go take every kid's electric motorcycle all the time, every time, but we reserve that for the ones that are being unsafe and dangerous. So I think that addresses. I open it up to questions if you have any. If the committee has any questions.
Well, thank you very much, Sergeant. With that, I'll turn to my fellow commissioners. Do we have any questions for staff or? Yes, please.
Thank you for the report. One immediate question is, they're not allowed on the street. Are they allowed on our trails?
So that's there. Yeah, we're talking specifically the
Surons.
Electric motorcycle.
Yeah.
That's going to be up to the city, but typically no. For instance, some cities allow e-bikes, but some cities don't. Ventura allows no e-bikes on their trail, but they do allow
Right.
regular bikes. So there is a distinction. As far as the vehicle code, I can speak to the vehicle code because that's my bread and butter. There's no distinction between like the class 1, 2 electric bike being on a trail and a regular bike being on a trail. But when
Right.
we talk about the Surons, the electric motorcycles, if the trail is for bicycles, then no. But we're probably getting into more of a Muni code violation than a vehicle code violation. So,
Yeah, if I might, I believe COSCA, which manages most of the open
Right.
space, in one of their recent meetings, I think they've been establishing what type. I think it's class 1 only is the ones that are allowed in the open space, and maybe not anything beyond that. And it's just, when you look through this and you see how many other alternatives there are and how many there are that are way beyond class 1, that it's pretty eye-opening. So,
Yeah. So
Yeah.
prior to 6 months ago, when my daughter was born, I served on the Caneo Open Space Foundation's
Okay.
board, and this was a topic. So that's news to me that COSCA has made that move. That's good.
yeah, I saw it on their board meeting agenda. I don't know what the exact
Okay.
outcome was for sure, but I know I believe that's what the recommendation was recently, a few months ago.
Yeah, I can confirm that COSCA adopted an ordinance that stated that Class 1 e-bikes were treated as bicycles and allowed on trails, and no other electronic bikes are allowed. They're considered to be motorcycles.
So if I'm understanding that correctly, the Suron specifically doesn't really have any place in the city.
no.
Theoretically, I mean, you can buy one, but you really shouldn't be driving one.
You would more or less operate it how you would an off-highway vehicle, a dirt bike. So if you went and bought a Honda or Yamaha dirt bike, we wouldn't take that on the trail. Like,
Go into the desert. and
Yeah, those.
have a
that's
great
how-
weekend.
Private property
Right.
would be the best avenue for your Suron. Definitely not public streets or sidewalks, but and definitely not the open space areas because you wouldn't take a dirt bike on. It would be the same violation.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I think that as a parent would be really interesting, knowledge. Obviously, that's part of, you understand the strategy. It's the parents who are buying these.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not the students
No.
saving up their hard-earned
No.
money. And I think messaging to the parents is, so I work at Oak Park Unified School District, and we
Okay.
have a director of safety. And so going perhaps through, and we're a much smaller district than CVUSD, but I could see the district putting out communication to all families on this topic if you were to get in touch with them. And
Okay.
most school districts now have a role created for director of student safety, and just a recommendation to consider reaching out to them, especially as you package together these media releases, and then
Absolutely.
the district can just blast out an email to all the parents about it.
The PDF versions of these are available if you want me to email them to you. The electric motorcycle bike difference one, and then the cheat sheet, those are public release. You can email those to everybody you want to. They're not a secret. They're meant to be distributed, of course. But yeah, if I could get the email and typically I'll work in the city, right? The confines of the incorporated city of Thousand Oaks would be the wheelhouse. But absolutely don't mind reaching out to our SROs and having them kind of get in on that completely.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Commissioner Callahan. Other commissioner comments, questions? Commissioner Amell?
Well, Sergeant, thanks for the report. This is one of those subjects that I think on a day-to-day basis, you could see these things out and about, and you ask yourself, what is that thing?
Mhm.
And then you just go about your business and you never think about it again until, there's a guy at in my office building that parks one of these things in a parking stall like it's a motorcycle. And it's like a ghost version of a motorcycle. It's got no engine. It's just a frame. You can see a battery, and that's it.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until a recent trip to Best Buy on Moore Park Road that, I think of Best Buy as a TV, computer, appliance place.
Right.
They've got like a whole section where they're selling scooters, e-bikes, whatever these things are. I imagine, like the Thousand Oaks Motorsports place on the boulevards also selling them. Has the sheriff's department thought about going to the retailers and offering to educate the people that are selling these things about what the vehicle code says and what's required when and where you can drive these things? Because if the sheriff's department needs a handout that's 3 pages long, and the DMV doesn't know what to call this or that or the other thing, I'd be willing to bet like a Best Buy person doesn't know either.
I would agree with you on that. We have great relationships with several with the bike shops, and then we do have with Teal Power Sports. Absolutely, we buy a lot of our motor gear there. Great relationship with Newbury Park Bikes. We don't have a great relationship with some other bike shops, and there's no communication there. And I get the feeling that there are people who are going to sell these no matter what. I have had complaints where I was told this was legal for the highway, now from the bike shop. So that's another one that maybe we're contending with too. Some will not talk to us. I've tried, and then some are more than happy. Bring your whole staff down. I'll set out 20 bikes, and I'll show you the difference between 1, 2, and 3. And oh, by the way, electric motorcycles, we don't sell them. We only sell bicycles. So there's a huge difference in the retail establishments here. And we've talked to them. Some are great. Some are not very cooperative.
Well, at least you've tried.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And
No,
that was my
yeah.
question: is how, do these people cooperate with the sheriff's department if you want to come in and pass along some helpful information, which by extension is helping the people who buy these things and keeping them
Absolutely.
safer. So,
Yeah.
but your efforts are appreciated, and
Thank you.
certainly all of the material you put together here is really helpful. I just wish more people had it. Thank you.
And we'll keep getting it out. So absolutely.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you again for the presentation. I guess I'm curious in just starting with some numbers of where we're at. I mean, you
Okay.
mentioned, obviously I'm not going to hold you to particular numbers. Estimates are fine.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious in terms of you know, the detaining of the kids or stopping or you know, all of what you said in your presentation. Where are we at in numbers? Are we an increase from last year? Is it, you know, you said we're not close to even Carlsbad, which is great.
No,
but
not at all.
I'm just kind of curious as a starting point, our numbers.
Well, and then, you know, I brought the Carlsbad thing. They have different dynamics there on the beach, right? You'll never be that. You'll never be Carlsbad, but we just don't want it to surprise us and bite us. Where'd this come from? How do we get out in front of it? So the numbers are a little weird because if you want to talk about seizing the bike, towing, now we don't seize them, but we tow them, or they've been impounded for 30 days or we towed. That went from 0 last year to, I mean, there's no way to quantify that. We're doing it a lot. We're actively enforcing the rules of the road when it comes to electric motorcycles. So I review most of our tow forms, and we're doing this a lot. Where we did nothing the year before, when everybody thought, oh, he's got an electric bicycle, until people started crashing and hurting themselves, and it became important. You know, cops on their own are just not going to pay attention to kids on electric bikes. But now that my department's been educated and we know what the motorcycles are, absolute huge increase in enforcement, the tickets, and the towing. As far as collisions go, we track collisions with minors. A Sur-Ron collision would be a motorcycle collisions. We'd have to look through the collision reports, but I've got a pretty good, even though I don't review every collision report, I have a pretty good beat on it. And if there's a Sur-Ron collision that's an injury crash, I'm going to know about it. And outside of the Newbury Park one, and I think one more where it was minor, we haven't had it. I'm not going to brag, but I think in the last 6 months, our proactive enforcement of the Sur-Rons is a contributing factor. It has to be, just by definition, with this kind of a zero tolerance, the Sur-Rons. And then, you know, the citation does get them into the juvenile court for a traffic hearing, too. And then they can get the appropriate license when they're older. But no, not a huge increase. We outside of that, the big crash we had, I think it was February in Newbury Park, or in Dos Vientos, nothing. So.
Well, and I appreciate the active enforcement. I mean, I was up at Dos Vientos today picking up my oldest from soccer practice, and I saw, I guess now that I know what it was, right. Kind of like the commission.
You see them everywhere now.
Not quite knowing. I'm pretty sure it was a electric motorcycle. Just zoom across the park there.
Yeah.
And I did the exact thing of looking up and going, oh, I wonder what that is, and back to living my life. But I appreciate and can understand you're in a conundrum, and I guess pushing aside the large amount of questions I have at what needs to be done at the state level, because obviously you need money, we need to change the vehicle code, we need to provide practical solutions from Sacramento.
Absolutely.
What can be done at the city level besides enforcement? I guess coming back to, I mean, is there a role that the city can play? Is there a role that the commission can play? You know, part of our kind of our call to action is the safety aspects of this. Right. And I think that's kind of principle number one of why we're here. So, I mean, I'll just leave that as is. What can we do?
I think with regards to, for instance, the electric motorcycles, we classify them as motorcycles, so I don't think there is anything the city needs to do with that. There's so many violations they commit just by having these on the street. And I went over just to name a few: headlights, brake lights, turn signals. I mean, it's amazing. License plate, a registration, a registered owner. There's so many things, right? There's license requirements, juveniles. They have an M1. I don't think there is a muni code that we could do that would make enforcement any easier. I think enforcement of the Sur-Rons on public lands, on city property, is very easy. It's an unregistered off-highway vehicle on the highway, and that's an easy stop. So I don't think there's, as far as these, there's really anything. I think that the active, like you said, now, or you saw one earlier, you never saw them before. They were there, but now that you know what they are and they're out there, like, oh, you see them all the time. So our shifts and our crews know to look for them, and they're pulling them over and writing tickets. So I don't think there's any muni code that would trump maybe a driving without a license citation or a citation without a registered vehicle, I think we have plenty of enforcement options without the city. The only thing I would say maybe would be the open space areas where we're not going to get, the average patrol officer is not going to catch anyone open space running. It's not going to happen. They can go 60 miles an hour. We're not going to catch them. But that might be a Muni code no. But I think it already exists. If it's already prohibiting dirt bikes, it would prohibit these. So nothing right now. Do you agree on that?
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything we could do that we don't already have. And I think we have plenty.
Good. Well, I mean, the only other thing that I would think is maybe, I know we have I guess what website presence is there for all this information to direct parents and kind of coming back off of Commissioner Callahan's question. I mean, even just I know we have the walktoschoolto.org, but what else, can we get a bigger website presence for this information or help kind of?
Absolutely, we don't have anything like that. I haven't started anything. There's no website that someone could go on and look at, and definitely nothing for the city. I have not. I wouldn't know how to do that.
Yeah, I guess in follow up to that, to dovetail with the city's launching a whole new website effort, and Alex South, who was just here, she's leading that effort up, and so we're basically redesigning a new website from scratch that's more nimble and easier to find things and more streamlined and modern. So that definitely is an area that I'll encourage her to will add a bike safety element to the website. And in fact, I think our current one has a pedestrian and bike safety page on there, but it's obviously could be improved upon. Yeah. Several of the pages are buried, so that's we're going to consolidate things and make less. Right now, there's too many layers to the onion, and we're going to make it make the ones that need to stand out a little bit better, and that's definitely one I'll make sure we do.
That's perfect. I mean, I would appreciate it just getting website presence. I mean, the kids don't go on there, but the parents would. I think another just practical thing, and I mentioned it earlier in Ms. South's presentation, but I'd invite you, if you haven't already, one of your representatives come to the District Advisory Council meeting for the CVUSD. I believe it's the second Tuesday morning of the month.
Okay.
I can talk to you after about it, but
let's do that.
again, it's you have one representative from every school site, and they're PTA parents. They're not higher ups, you cut the district off, and you're really just talking to parents and PTA representatives.
Okay.
And I know you do a great job of going around to different schools and giving talks and stuff, but you have the high schools there, the middle schools, and the elementary. So you have everybody in the same room that at least can take back that information to the PTA and that individual school site, and then hopefully, connect everybody.
Okay.
And I think just thirdly, just real quick, I mean, practically, if you're not getting support from the businesses, the city is able to do a resolution ordinance or something directing the businesses, if they're going to operate and sell these bikes, that they have to give out certain information if you want that information, and you're not getting that from businesses.
Okay.
And I think I know a few bike shops that are probably not cooperative with you. There are mechanisms in which the city could assist with that to allow kind of that, open that door, and they may go kicking and screaming, but at the same time, if they're getting $6,000 per motorcycle, it's kind of the cost of doing business, and it's not that much more to actually get that information and say, hey, if you're going to buy this, here is exactly where you can ride it in the city, and it's nowhere.
Right.
Because maybe they'll, unfortunately, maybe they'll think twice, but also we're talking about safety in my mind, and ultimately having some 16-year-old kid driving it on the road, parents thinking it's an electric bike. It's not. It's a motorcycle. So there are some practical things I think could be done, but I mean, just the information. I appreciate all your work. You really do. I mean, you have a thankless job in a lot of ways, because dealing with teens can't be fun. But if there's anything you need, please let this commission know, or let me know personally. I'm happy to help. So
absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Okay. We have one written question. Should I address that now, or is that?
Oh, I just was going to.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
So, Mrs. Vasquez, we have no speakers?
Yes, no speakers, just the one written comment.
Sure, if you,
Okay, Barbara Ballinger. The comment or question is, all motorized bikes should have licenses on them so you can track who's breaking the law. I agree. Everyone should receive a mail out in the mail, not to have to count on people going to the website. Okay. I guess two-part. The first part is I agree they should have license. If they're legal vehicles with the registered owner, yes, they'll have a license plate. And at the crux of this, a lot of things that we do is are illegal vehicles, and they'll never have a plate. And then the mail out in the mail and not count on the website. So
Yeah, and I can touch on that promotion. Once we establish this new website and we put a nice page or portal together that has some of these tools and information, then we can distribute that in different ways, whether it's through social media or other through the Acorn and so forth, to kind of get the word out that here's a portal that parents can check and get familiar with what the rules and requirements are for some of these different vehicles, and so we can definitely do that.
thank you. Any other further comments or any response from staff on that written item or written statement? Okay. Any further questions of staff from my fellow commissioners? All right, hearing none, I'll go ahead and close the item to public comments, and we have no further discussion. So thank you very much, Sergeant, for coming in this evening. All of this is tremendously helpful. I'll help make sure to spread that information out to the community. And we will go ahead and move on to our item C, which is our 2024 pavement project, public outreach for restriping proposal to Los Padres Drive and Sunset Hills Boulevard. Report by Mr. Jim Machiko. Always good to see you, sir.
Good to see you. Thank you, Chair Pletcher. This is an information item to receive public input on restriping proposals for Los Padres Drive as well as Sunset Hills Boulevard. Both streets will be included in our 2024 citywide pavement project. And as you recall, at the July Traffic Commission meeting, we identified 9 road segments where potential striping measures were proposed to enhance existing bicycle lanes and influence lower driving speeds by narrowing the width of travel lanes. Of the 9 roads, staff felt it was important to receive public feedback on the potential restriping options for these 2 streets. So we shared draft striping concepts in the staff report, which you have in your agenda packet. And tonight we're asking the public and the commission to provide their input on the striping concepts for these 2 streets. And then here's a list of the 9 streets that we covered last July. Highlighted in red are the 2 streets that we're focusing on tonight: Los Padres Drive from Moore Park Road to Rolling Oaks Drive, and number 2, Sunset Hills Boulevard from the 23 freeway to the easterly public road terminus. And just want to cover an example of striping measures that we've implemented during previous road pavement overlay projects. This was, I believe, occurred in 2022. An example along Lynn Road south of the 101 freeway, where we've narrowed the through travel lanes and then created buffered bike lanes, which create more separation between cars and bikes. And we are hearing more and more from the cycling community that they do prefer these buffered bike lanes because of that extra separation that they do get. So let's start with our first street, Los Padres Drive, between Moore Park Road and Rolling Oaks Drive. The left image shows a vicinity map indicating the street is to the south of the 101 freeway and east of Moore Park Road. And then on the larger location map to the right, it highlights the road segment that's just over half a mile in length. We mailed out notices to 36 properties fronting the street, advising them of the potential opportunity to add roadway striping during the pavement project, and residents were informed that they can provide feedback here tonight or participating online via Zoom or submitting an email to staff. Okay, so this photo right here shows a possible concept to add white edgeline striping approximately 8 feet from the curb on both sides of the street to identify a parking lane that would effectively narrow the existing 23-foot wide travel lanes to 15 feet in width and encourage slower driving speeds. The road striping can help improve roadway clarity and safety in response to citizen concerns over 2 collisions that took place in the past 42 months where parked vehicles were struck. White edge line striping is a countermeasure to help correct and reduce the frequency of this collision pattern. The city has implemented this type of treatment on Hillcrest Drive between Hodenkamp Road and the 23 freeway, Lakeview Canyon Road west of Lindero Canyon Road, and both improvements have been well received by the public and residents fronting the roadway. The collision history is not an indicative issue of a chronic problem along the street. The Edgeline proposal may be considered a visual aesthetic impact, so therefore we're asking for the residents to provide feedback on any striping concept for the street. So at this time we received 3 emails from residents expressing opposition to the Edgeline proposal, and that information was provided to you before this meeting. And then for our second street, here's a vicinity map that shows the 1 mile segment of Sunset Hills Boulevard between the 23 freeway to the easterly end, where the emphasis is to convert the existing bike lanes into buffered bike lanes to create more separation between cars and bikes. And I'll be showing you concept drawings of the proposed striping within the project limits. For this location, we sent out 184 mailers to the region circled in green. It's the area to the northeast of the intersection of Sunset Hills and Herbs. And the properties in this zone are the primary road users within the affected segment of the street. Like Los Padres, the residents were informed that they could provide feedback either by attending the meeting here, participating online by Zoom, or submitting an email to staff. So Sunset Hills Boulevard, there's 3 separate treatments depending on the road segment, and here's the first one. The segment is from the 23 freeway to Herbs Road. The number 1 eastbound travel lane can be converted to a right turn only lane at the intersection with Herbs Road. Our observations indicate that the drivers in the number 2 lane already use this as a right turn only lane, so the proposed change alters the lane designation to match the traffic pattern observed in the field. And then secondly, the eastbound bike lane would then shift to the left of the right turn only lane to help reduce conflicts at the intersection. The use of green bike lane striping is used to remind drivers to look for cyclists where there could be conflicts between cars and bikes as they weave through these conflict zones. This is the segment from Sunset Hills Boulevard to Avenida Amaranto, where the number 2 eastbound lane is eliminated to create a parking lane in front of Sunset Hills Park. Currently, vehicles are permitted to park in the bike lane. The standard bike lane along this eastbound direction would be upgraded to a buffered bike lane. And in the westbound direction, a buffered bike lane would be created by narrowing the 2 through travel lanes. Okay, and then finally on this easterly segment of Sunset Hills Boulevard, buffered bike lanes would replace standard bike lanes by narrowing the width of the through traffic lanes. The image on the bottom shows the end of the project limits at Windbreeze Avenue. So at this time we received 2 emails from residents expressing agreement with the striping proposal for Sunset Hills Boulevard. And copies of those emails were provided to the commission before this meeting. So with that, the recommendation is in the staff report. We're open to feedback on the proposed striping options for the 2 streets. Staff can either weave the collective input into the final restriping options presented or develop a new striping variation option as appropriate. So with that, that concludes the presentation. I'll be happy to answer any questions of the commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mashiko. I will turn to my fellow commissioners for any staff questions before we get to our public speakers this evening. Do we have any questions for staff? Sir.
Question. Mr. Mashiko, thank you for the report. Well done. I had a question concerning I think it's segment 1 on Los Padres Drive. It's the stretch between Moore Park Road to Rolling Oaks. There was something said in the report about 2 collisions reported along the 6/10 mile long segment during the 42-month period between January 2020 and June 30th, 2023. And you alluded to it in your presentation. It says, in both instances, a vehicle struck a parked vehicle. One incident occurred in July 2021 where a driver reportedly fell asleep and was cited for unsafe speed. A second incident occurred in December 2022. But there are no facts given about the December 2022 collision. Do you happen to know anything about that collision in terms of its cause?
No, I don't. The information in the collision report wasn't as comprehensive as the first one. That's why I included the information from the first collision. So yeah, the second incident did not have as much detailed information.
Okay, thank you. Nothing further right now.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Callahan?
Thank you for the report. Can you expand just a little bit more on the areas where you've implemented similar measures and what you've seen afterwards?
Okay, the 2 streets that come to mind are Hillcrest Drive for the proposal for Los Padres Drive, where we add edgeline striping, is the segment on Hillcrest Drive between the 23 freeway and Hodenkamp, as well as Lakeview Canyon Road, east of or west of Lindero Canyon Road. In both those instances, there were concerns with vehicle speeds and also the narrowness of the travel lanes. So by putting in an edge line, it helps to define the path of where the vehicle should be placed in relation to parked vehicles on the road. That way, cars that would be parked on the street, the edge line would help cars sort of steer clear and try to stay away from parked vehicles and keep them more in a constrained area. And in addition to that, it would help hopefully influence lower speeds. But in both those instances, after the edgeline striping was installed, we did receive some positive comments that at least the residents who front those roads, they felt that there was some benefit to those streets.
And if I might, there's an image on page 3 of the staff report of the Lakeview Canyon Road modification, just as an example.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Machiko. I just want to couple questions. One on the staff report, and then just want to walk through some of the email comments just to kind of flesh out what was being discussed. One, do we have an idea on these particular roads, kind of the traffic counts that we're seeing, just on a during our peak hours when we really would, discuss those numbers?
Okay, we don't have peak hour counts, but we basically have some daily traffic counts for Los Padres Drive. The daily traffic is just under 2,000 vehicles per day. So usually, if you want to look at a peak hour, typically the peak hour is about like 10% of the daily. So maybe during that peak hour, you might have 200 cars along the street, 100 in each direction. And then for Sunset Hills Boulevard, our daily traffic counts were 4,000 vehicles per day east of Erbs Road. So that's actually pretty, light volume, given that there's 4 travel lanes total, 2 in each direction.
Perfect. Thank you. Just turning to the emails, and I'll give you a second if you need to grab them. I just want to walk through just real quick some of the suggestions in the emails, and then perhaps we can get just a brief response as to why or why not one is preferred over the other, or what the process is to fix one or the other. There were some emails discussing, well, it's easy, lower the speed limit. And then secondly is adding, I think I saw the reason for adding striping, and I think you briefly touched on it with Commissioner Callahan, but the visual perception and kind of slowing of the driver when there's a extra white line there. If you could just kind of walk through some of that real quick, please.
Okay, I think you mentioned first was a possible lowering of the speed limit. That was one of the concerns raised in these emails that we received. That's something that's not really part of this project, but that's something that we would consider, after if there were any striping to be implemented for Los Padres Drive, or basically most streets that are not residential streets. When we set a speed limit, we set it according to state law, where we basically go out there, observe traffic, take a measurement of 100 vehicles, and based on what those vehicles are traveling, we set the speed limit according to what those vehicles are driving. So for, I believe on Los Padres Drive, the speed limit is 35 miles an hour. It's because most of the people are driving at or around 35 miles an hour. Sunset Hills Boulevard, I believe the speed limit out there was is either 40 or 45 miles an hour. Same thing. We did the same procedure. We did observations of the traffic, recorded them, and then according to what people are driving, that's how we set the speed limit. Again, if this road, all roads, anytime after a resurfacing project is completed, about 3 months after the fact, we would go out there and resurvey the street to see whether or not it qualifies for a lower speed limit, because there's a notable change to the traffic conditions. So that's something that we always perform after the fact.
Thank you, and that's what I was trying to get at. Is this is a multi-step process in really how we evaluate the street and look at safety and any changes to the traffic pattern.
And if I can just piggyback on that, perhaps Jim, you can touch on the typical response once that is achieved in terms of reduction in speeds once lanes are narrowed. You take a average street with a 15 or 17 or a very wide travel lane and narrow them down to 11, 12 feet. There is some literature in the state that there is some measurable observation of reduced speed on a typical basis.
Yeah, well, typically you're not going to see a dramatic reduction in speed just by paint alone. If you can narrow the travel lanes, if there's going to be a reduction, it's going to be maybe 2 to 3 miles per hour, and that may be enough to justify lowering the speed limit to the next 5 mile per hour increment lower. So for Los Padres, if there's striping added, couple miles per hour is reduced from the radar survey, we could possibly lower the speed limit down to 30.
Thank you. Just one final question. This restriping, especially on, I guess, Los Padres Drive, where there are some residential homes, this isn't something new or a possible new way of approaching something for a residential neighborhood, right? This isn't, we don't typically, I guess what I'm getting at, there's a comment in one of the emails talking about how, well, this is something about business districts typically do this versus residential districts. And I just want to confirm that this is something that can be done in residential neighborhoods.
Yes, I mean, actually, any roadway, striping can be used to help calm traffic. Whether major streets, we are always going to have road striping to guide motorists through multi lanes and make sure they're in their proper path. These streets that have more or less these wider streets that have residential frontage, we don't necessarily have to put in road striping. In general, I think most homeowners, they prefer not to have striping in front of their house. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we did this outreach, to see whether or not is the community on Los Padres Drive, are they open to having, striping added to their street? Because, some people would feel that this is a residential street and should be, kept as is.
Thank you very much. Before I jump into public speakers, any last questions of staff? Commissioner Immel?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mashiko, I think I also saw in one of the emails regarding the complaint about speed and lowering the speed limit. Somebody, and this pops up often, where somebody doesn't like the speed that's occurring in or around their home, and they suggest speed bumps. But this commission has traveled that road many times before, and there are warrants or criteria that have to be met in order for speed bumps to be installed, right?
Yes, that's correct. The speed hump policy that we currently have is only for residential streets as defined by the vehicle code, and a residential street is a road that's no wider than 40 feet curb to curb. And also there's a certain residential density that must be present on that street. It's in a quarter-mile distance, you have either 16 homes on both sides or 13 homes on one side. Los Padres Drive does not qualify as a residential street because it's wider than 40 feet. I believe it's 46 feet curb to curb. However, I believe it does meet that residential density requirement.
If if somebody felt as if a street in their neighborhood would qualify for the installation of speed bumps, how would one go about initiating that process?
If someone was interested in seeing whether or not their neighbors support the idea of speed humps on their street, they can contact our staff, and we'd be glad to provide them all the information. There's a resolution that summarizes what the requirements are in terms of, there's a petition requirement. You need 75% of the homeowners fronting the street to support the idea. And if you get that 75%, then we would perform a traffic study to see whether or not the road meets all the numerical requirements to qualify for speed humps, including daily traffic volume requirement, which currently is 2,000 vehicles per day.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And with that, we will go ahead and turn to our public comments. And now I'd like to offer the public an opportunity to speak on this item before the commission begins its further discussion. And we have, looks like we have 4 speakers and 2 comment cards, but I'll turn to Mrs. Vasquez for a brief announcement.
Yes, so we have a total of 5. So you have 4 here in the boardroom and 1 online. Speakers that have requested to speak. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes, and you've also received several written statements that were all provided to the commissioners to review.
Thank you, Mrs. Vasquez. And let's see, I'll actually, we'll go ahead and start with our in-house public comments, and then I'll turn to the our Zoom speaker this evening. So please be patient if you're on Zoom. As Mrs. Vasquez said, you'll have 3 minutes, and their first speaker is Edward Terendek. Hopefully I got that name right. Please head over to the podium, sir, and we'll go ahead and turn on your microphone. And when you're ready, you have 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah. I guess I got this notice last week and was kind of looking it over. And last year I was kind of spending a little time trying to deal with some of the issues that are before us. So I was talking to city engineers about the streets in my area, and so that included Moore Park, the corner of Los Padres and Moore Park, and then the speed that's on Los Padres. At that time, I pointed out Moore Park had a speed limit of 40 on one side of the street and 35 on the other, and they were kind of a little baffled as to why that was, and wasn't really sure. And you can look at streets maps, and we finally saw it. So they did do a traffic survey, and lo and behold, some of the results that Jim talked about as far as how many people came by, and they came to the conclusion that instead of the speed on Moore Park going down, it should stay at 40 even. So they took the 35 down and put the 40 to make that even. But I was asking for a little more, like maybe a stop sign at that same intersection, maybe a crosswalk, because there's a lot of pedestrian traffic going there. And I think there's a handicap sidewalk comes on one side of Moore Park, and you get to Los Padres, and then the sidewalk continues on the other side of the street. There's handicap ramps on both sides, but no crosswalk. So as far as the speed on Los Padres, it definitely needs to come down. And I wanted to ask you to look at the city, actually the state code, AB 43. And AB 43 allows governments leeway, city governments, leeway in business and residential areas identified as safety corridors without following the 85th percentile rule. I think that's what Jim was talking about, that state law governs basically
You have 1 minute.
the speed that's in the area based on their surveys, that we have to kind of stay with that speed. And so now we're trying to bring that thing down by putting lines on the street. When I think if we kind of look toward what Long Beach and LA is looking to reduce speed to make our streets safer. So I know speed kills, and getting fast with our cars to and from, we think that's important, but you know, schools are trying to do walk to schools. We don't even have the right speeds to make that safe. So I'm in favor of the stripes, but I'd rather get the speed down. All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And our next speaker is Lynn Burdick.
Chair,
Yes.
I just wanted to remind the speakers to please state your name and residence for the record.
Thank you for that. Ms. Burdick, your name and city of residence, please.
Sure. My name is, excuse me, Lynn Burdick, and I live on Los Padres Drive, and I've lived there for 26 years. And after I reviewed the proposed roadway striping on Los Padres and also on Rolling Oaks, my priority would have been, as he pointed out, that we first target a speed limit reduction. I mean, I was willing to work with the city in terms of anything that they could do to help us. So I had put down that I would be okay with the striping. I know some of my neighbors disagree with that, but to me, it's like when we actually, my neighbor and I, Barb, met with Mr. Mashiko earlier this year, I believe it was, and we kind of felt that there would be nothing that he could offer to us that would help us with that speed. I've actually had a spin out of a vehicle right in front of my house. No other cars involved. The truck ended up on its side. The guy had to climb out of the passenger window. Speed is a problem. And we also do get ambulances that come down with sirens to the Tosh Medical Facility, which they don't belong on Los Padres. They should be on Rolling Oaks. If you're going to do any kind of striping, if that's what the committee agrees to, we don't want to minimize the parking that already is there. So don't put a stripe that eliminates the parking, okay? I'm also asking that there would be some curbs that are painted for loading and unloading in a time zone along the apartment complex. And the reason is because there is a blind curve. If you go back to the map, there is a blind curve on the apartment complex. And that's a big problem when you're having a speed situation going on. And if we could eliminate the double parking issue, that might also help with some safety issues with the apartment complex. And there doesn't exist that right now. And the same thing is at the back of the Tosh Hospital, there's also a no parking zone, but yet you have loading, unloading going on with the hospital, okay? So my point being is that people are not paying any attention to what's going on in terms of the traffic laws. So if there's no enforcement or consequences, people aren't going to pay attention to it. So just painting lines on the street may not be the answer, even though I said I would approve it. I'm willing to come to the table and say, what can you do to help us? And if that doesn't work, we need to move further. And we also have a looming project that's going through the Planning Commission
Sorry,
right now.
ma'am, your time is up.
So,
If you want to take a, you can wrap up your comment.
Okay.
You're mid-sentence, so I'll
Yeah.
let you go ahead and wrap
thank
that
you.
up.
We have a looming project that hasn't been approved yet, but that's also going to put a lot of pressure on our street. So anything we can do to help lower that speed limit would be appreciated.
Thank you, Ms. Burdick. Our third speaker is Barbara Ballinger. Friendly reminder, please state your name and city of residence when you're ready, Ms. Ballinger.
Barbara Ballinger. I live on Los Padres Drive in Thousand Oaks. I'm wondering if there's going to be an interruption of the striping at mailboxes, or whether the curb will be painted red there, or have some diagonals so that people know that they're not supposed to park in front of the mailboxes. Because I think the striping for the parking is going to make them think, oh, I can park anywhere where there's a line. Anyway, and also, will there be a bike lane? That's it.
Thank you very much.
Otherwise, I think the striping, if it helps, I'm for it.
Thank you. Our last speaker, in-house, Christine Schule? Scholey, I'm so sorry. Ms. Scholey, please state your name and city of residence.
Okay. My name is Christine Scholey, and I'm in Thousand Oaks on Los Padres. Can you go back to the image that shows the houses, and you actually see a huge oak tree behind one of the houses? Okay, right there. So, see the house with the huge oak tree in the back there on Los Padres? Okay, so when people are coming up Los Padres, it comes at an incline. So if there's cars parked by the house and I'm backing up, I can't see that car until it pretty much gets up to the point where the top of the hill. What I'm saying, it puts me in a vulnerable position. I do not want cars parking on my street. I do not. We're residential. We're a tight neighborhood. We watch out for each other. We have the apartment building down the way by Rolling Oaks. There are a lot of cars down there. Now, if the striping was down there, I'd say, that's great. But right in front of those few houses right there, I do not want to encourage parking. And plus, we have visitors at times. They can park in front of our house. And my question is, to piggyback on Lynn, we have another facility coming in where Youngset used to be. And I came from the city. But born and raised in Ventura County. I've lived in LA. I've lived in the Valley. Yeah, I love Thousand Oaks. I do not want to encourage. We're not Hillcrest. We're not Sunset Hills Boulevard. We're not. We don't have that much traffic. Can they just get a handle on the speed? And I understand our streets are so wide, so we can't do a speed bump, but I bet we could get 75 neighbors to be unanimous in getting those speed bumps. So that's my 2 cents. I want to keep it the way it is, and I want us to watch out for each other, and I don't want to put the striping, and I don't want to encourage a parking lot on Los Padres. And I thank you for running our city the way you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'll turn back to Mrs. Vasquez for our Zoom public comment this evening.
Chair, currently the person is not signed on.
We had them.
Yeah.
And we have 2 written statement cards. Well, I love that you said it, so I can say it again. Miss Barbara Ballinger, in favor. Will there be a bike lane? Will there be a way to designate no parking in front of mailboxes, red striped, diagonal stripes, or no parking stripes in front of the mailboxes? And then we have one from Elizabeth Frederick. I don't have a marking if it's in favor or opposed. Concerned that side stripes will encourage folks to park in front of our homes, and 1 vote for speed bumps. And I've made sure that all the commission have seen the written comment cards. So with that, just want to confirm any further speakers this evening.
Still no speaker.
Thank you. Then we'll go ahead and turn back to staff for response to really a number of great comments and from our speakers.
Okay, yes. I took some notes. Basically, they all center on Los Padres Drive. And first question, will there be parking to be eliminated? No, there will be no change in the allowable areas where parking would be used. So basically, all we're doing is adding, or we could be adding, an edge line that's 8 feet away from the curb on both sides of the street. There will be no diagonal markings or stripings of any type. Just be a standard line that's shown on that diagram that's on screen. And I believe there are some, the striping will be in front of those the homes, so that will be in front of the mailboxes. But the striping will not encourage or discourage parking on the street. I think someone was in the impression that if you add lines, that's going to encourage parking to occur on the street. Basically, the lines serve to indicate to define the area to drivers, to show that to the right of the line is an area for parking and the area to the left is the travel lane. So and then I think the other question was speed humps. I think we covered that earlier, that the road is not a candidate for speed humps since it does not qualify as a residential street. Oh, and then the last item, someone did ask, will there be bike lanes? The answer is no, that's not being proposed since the road is not wide enough to provide bike lanes on each side of the street. Generally, if we're going to provide bike lanes, the minimum road width that you would need is 5 feet for a bike lane. And in order to do that, you have to give something up to create an area for bikes. And to do that, you'd probably have to eliminate parking along the street, which I don't think the residents would enjoy that loss of parking.
Thank you, Mr. Mashiko. I'll turn it back to the fellow commissioners. Any questions for staff? Commissioner Immel?
So this, the idea of a speed survey has, for years, confounded me, because I understand that it's based on like the 75th percentile of speed on a particular street, but it's always seemed to me like one of those things where if you give somebody an inch, they're going to take a mile, and then they're going to keep going. And, if you allow somebody to get away with something, you're just kind of opening the floodgates to just more of the same. So one of the speakers raised this concept about AB 43, which, if it's true, it's probably long overdue, because I do believe that cities should have the ability to diagnose certain safety hazards in certain places and bring the speed limit down. And so I was just curious to know from the staff, Do you have any thoughts about that? Because this is the first time I'm hearing it. Because I always thought that when I lived in LA, it was the same thing. Hands are tied. It's the speed survey, state mandated percentile. But if things are changing, I would like to get the staff's thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, I guess, attempts in the past to try to change the speed limit law based on setting the speed limit according to 85th percentile speed. And over time, basically what we're at now is if we were going to lower the speed limit, it would have to be based on if there's pedestrian and bicyclist activity. For example, if the road had bike lanes, that's something where we can use a section in the vehicle code to allow us to drop the speed limit by an additional 5 miles per hour. But on Los Padres Drive, that's something, bike lanes are not present, so we can't use that avenue. I believe if there's an issue with a high collision rate that's higher than comparable roadway that's not apparent to the driver, that's something that we can use to help lower the speed limit. But as far as I know, Los Padres Drive is not considered a high collision rate for roadway. And also the issue that you thought, or you brought up, that potentially if you allow the drivers to set the speed limit based on the 85th, over time the speed limit is just going to go up every 5 years or every 10 years every time we do a survey where it's speed creep. But in terms of what we're seeing, we have not experienced speed creep throughout the city. Part of that might be because since the 1990s, we've been implementing these sort of restriping proposals. Every time there's an overlay, we're narrowing the travel lanes, we're adding bike lanes where possible. So we're constricting the usable roadway width for drivers. And at the same time, because we've added the bike lanes, we've been able to use the sections of the vehicle code to allow us to drop or maintain the speed limit to where they are today.
So here we're talking about a resurfacing project, right? So in your experience, or can you share with me any any instances in which you resurface a street and then you go out there and you do a speed survey? Does the speed increase after you resurface a street? Because it would just appear naturally to me that it would, because people who are inclined to speed see a nice newly paved street and they can't wait to rip it. So do you have any experience in which the road gets resurfaced and then the speed creep effect does come into the equation?
I mean, from my experience, I don't think I've seen that before. Like I said, every time we do all our major roadways, when we do the resurfacing, we've been implementing these sort of traffic calming striping measures. So if there was, if there was speed creep, we would have been probably here at Commission and also at City Council raising speed limits, but we have not been doing that.
Yeah, and I think a contributing factor to that is we don't allow the streets in Thousand Oaks, fortunately with the City Council support, we don't allow them to deteriorate to the point where there's such a drastic change. So when we resurface a street, it's not going from a, cobblestone thing to now, wow, I finally got a street, now I can gun it. It's kind of it's more of a preservation of our asset. We're just resurfacing to kind of keep the streets, intact and preserve their useful life. So while it's darker and it looks brand new, but generally the rideability typically isn't drastically different.
Sure. Yeah. Right. And I didn't mean to suggest that the city's streets are deteriorating to borderline non-functionality, but it was just like visually appealing when you resurface a road. It would just occur to me that maybe you might have the potential for speed to increase. But as Mr. Mashiko had said, usually when you resurface a road, it's why we're here, right? It's why we're talking about this very subject. It gives you the opportunity to maybe do some things that, weren't weren't in existence before you resurfaced, like the striping and whatnot. But that's pretty much all the questions I have for now. So thank you both.
Yeah, I just want to add one more thing. On top of that, too, over time, last 20 years, we've been adding or utilizing more tools out on the roadway, such as radar feedback signs. That's something that we probably started about 15 years ago, and we're trying to, add more and more radar feedback signs on our arterial streets where we have the highest volume of traffic, and then the speed limits are, generally 45 miles an hour plus. So we're trying to implement those because I know that's something that's requested by the public. And for example, Los Padres Drive, the daily traffic is no more than 2,000 vehicles per day. That's really a light volume of traffic compared to, if you say nearby Moore Park Road, the volume level on Moore Park is up to 20,000 miles per day. So Los Padres Drive. Vehicles per day. And in addition to that, too, we've been implementing our crosswalks. We've been upgrading them to our rectangular rapid flashing beacons. So in addition to the markings in the road, signs in the roadway, we've implemented those rapid flashers. Most people recognize them along Thousand Oaks Boulevard, where they have that high pulse pattern when the pedestrian pushes the button and the lights are blinking, so it really captures the eye of the driver.
Thank you. Commissioner Callahan?
I think you had addressed most of the questions that came up from our speakers. I believe there are a few more, though, from our first speaker that I just wanted to maybe circle back and give you an opportunity to respond. The gentleman mentioned the possibility of adding a stop sign and also a crosswalk. And then also, mentioned, is there any other avenue to reduce the speed? And I think you've touched on that. And then I believe our third speaker mentioned an opportunity for unloading and loading further down, closer towards the apartment complex. And I wanted to give you an opportunity to respond to those.
Okay, the issue about the loading, unloading zone, that's something that's really not part of this project. So we're really not, looking at trying to, go outside of, I guess tonight, the main question is what the public feedback is on the striping proposal. But in terms of loading and unloading zones, that's something that we could look separately outside the scope of this project. If the apartment complex wanted to identify where they would like loading and unloading zones, that's something that we can look at. But at the same time, I'm aware that that area, as you get north to the towards the apartment complex, there's a high demand for parking. So if you eliminate parking and then create loading unloading zones, that's going to reduce your parking count. So that means cars will no longer be able to park in certain locations. It's going to push it somewhere else. It may get pushed to areas that, the residents may not want the cars pushed to. So that's something that has to be considered. The question about marked crosswalks and stop signs, that's something that we looked at. That's more down by Moore Park, off of Moore Park Road, where Los Padres intersects Moore Park Road. I believe we did take some traffic counts to see whether or not stop signs or signals qualify, and that's just, you need a very high traffic volume or traffic count to qualify for those, for the signal, and it did not meet the requirements. And then on top of that, a marked crosswalk, we do have a resolution that identifies when and where we place marked crosswalks. They're not there as basically a safety device. It's there to help channelize pedestrians if there's a high pedestrian count. But I think if you were to walk up and down Los Padres Drive, I don't think you're going to find a specific point where there's a heavy pedestrian, traffic at a certain location. But I think we looked at that in the past, and I don't think you're going to find a specific point on Los Padres or the intersection of Moore Park at Los Padres that would qualify for a marked crosswalk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just as a follow-up, one of the final items mentioned by our speakers this evening involves an application in front of our Planning Commission. I just want to confirm as a former member, that specific application will have its own analysis as far as traffic impacts, and then that will be heard by our Planning Commission. Is that correct?
That's correct. The Planning Commission will be able to review a traffic study that was prepared for that project because based on the development proposal, new trips will be added to the street.
Perfect. Thank you. Last call for questions. Hearing none, I'll go ahead and close this item to public comments. Open discussion among the commission. I'll just go ahead and start and kind of lay a quick foundation. Just to be clear, this is an informational item this evening. We are not taking a vote. This is purely a opportunity for staff to hear your comments, be able to respond to them, and then kind of take it all together and fuse it as it does say in our staff report. This item will be coming back in front of the City Council. It says final road striping plans will be prepared for approval by the City Council in late 2023 in advance of the project commencement in 2024. So while we're not taking any action this evening, staff will implement all the comments, choose a path forward, and then put it back on agenda for City Council in late 2023. That will give you another opportunity based on what staff does to come back to the City Council. You can talk directly with the decision makers, not the appointees of the decision makers. And then City Council will be able to give final direction as to any particular item that is being considered for restriping. So I just wanted to open it up before I turn to my fellow commissioners, kind of lay that as a baseline, just to make sure it's well understood and by you folks who came out tonight. And finally, I just want to obviously say thank you. Thank you for always coming out. I hope that we were able to receive your comments and make sure that you were heard, answer those questions, get them to staff. And I just want to make sure you're leaving tonight with very clear kind of indication as to the next steps, because I realize that can be, government's complicated, it's confusing, but you do have another opportunity to raise any comments based on what staff decides to do moving forward. So with that, I'll just turn to any commissioners have any other comments this evening? Commissioner Immel?
Well, so just for discussion among us, I mean, so we got these emails tonight when we arrived, and honestly, the first maybe 2 or 3, I thought there was going to be a firestorm of criticism and opposition for the striping. But to my surprise, it didn't really become as, the comments didn't become as intense as I thought they would. But if I'm hearing the speakers who attended tonight, it's almost kind of like, I mean, I'm still not getting that strenuous opposition that I thought I would have gotten, because people don't want the stripes in front of their residents, because it takes away from the aesthetic of not only their house, but of the neighborhood in general. People don't want stop signs and lines painted all over the place, and I get that. I didn't hear a whole lot of like strong opposition, but I'll just tell you, I mean, personally, my own belief is I would probably tend to side with those people who don't want the lines. But I would like to hear what you think about it, because as far back as I can remember, striping has always been considered to be a speed calming device. And I don't know on what research that's based, but it is always identified as a speed calming measure. So just thought I would kick off with those thoughts.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it came through pretty clear from residents that the speed is the problem, right? And I think we hear you on that, and I think you're kind of hitting it on the head. Is this going to bring down the speed? And I think there's some research out there that says 2 to 3, but you know, it's kind of until you do it, you don't totally know. And I think we're also in this unique spot where we have this repavement project happening. It's coming, and then it's just whether or not this gets looped into it, right? And so when you're repaving, that's the time to do the striping. So it's kind of like, you know, we're a little bit under the, you know, the time crunch of like the decision has to be made so that it can either happen or not. But I think we all hear you on it's the speed is what you're most concerned about. And yeah, I don't have an answer for that other than we have options. Either the staff has the option of proceeding and we measure it and we see if it comes down, or we don't proceed with the striping.
No, I appreciate getting us started with our discussion for the evening. No, I tend to agree. When I with the exception of, I believe, one public speaker this evening, we heard a lot of yes, but, or yes, however, where there's generally support of the idea, but we're looking to really attack and identify speed and reducing speed as a broader issue. And I think for our, I believe one public comment in opposition really was a concern about parking and parking on the street. And maybe I would invite staff to reach out to the neighborhood, and there are options, I'm sure, interactions that can be had about how to maybe alleviate parking concerns if it becomes a regular issue. But, you know, overall, I think, you know, we're all here with the same goal. Is we're hearing reduction of speed on Los Padres Drive. This to me sounds like a start, because we did hear from staff that 3-4 months after the restriping gets done, we can go out and take a look at it and do that survey to see if we can get that reduction in speed. It may only be 2, 3, 4 miles an hour, but I have read surveys just because reports, just because I was curious too on how restriping can reduce speed, and it's really a perception issue from the driver standpoint. I'm looking at the sergeant. He's not giving me a nod, so I'm assuming maybe I misread it. But no, there's. I think this is the first step of potential multi-steps in which we can attack and address some of the speed concerns here tonight. And I think, you know, like I mentioned, as far as parking goes, we have to go through the process. We have to go through the procedure that staff has set out for addressing parking. But if there are concerns, the best thing you can do is bring them to the attention of staff, because without information, staff can't just go out and put up signs where signs are not necessarily needed, where there's no information to back that up. So, I mean, I'm generally supportive of the lines, because it's a yes, but, and I would just hope that this would start a broader conversation about reduction in speed over time. And I really don't hear any real discussion tonight, because we have folks really from Los Padres Drive, but Sunset Hills, I mean, it's logical. It makes sense. It's in front of the park. Adding the bike lanes makes sense. While you still can have parking, we can have a dedicated bike lane. It's a logical step for that area of town from the 23 freeway over. So I'll open it back up if anybody has any response, but yeah.
So I generally agree with your comments regarding the project as it relates to Sunset Hills Boulevard. And to credit the staff on the the Los Padres section of the resurfacing project. I mean, they have obviously diagnosed speed as an issue, and so their solution, which you don't need warrants and criteria for, all this stuff, is painting lines, right? So curiously, though, I kind of have a little bit of a different view of maybe how the staff should receive the comments about the striping, which is I perceive that there's general support for it. Perhaps there's some ambivalency there, but the people who really oppose it, really oppose it. I mean, they're writing in capital letters, exclamation marks, and they're yelling about the speed, and it seems like they don't want the lines, they want the speed brought down. But I recognize that you're trying to do that. This measure is trying to accomplish that. But before a final decision is made about the striping, is it maybe, I don't know, too much to ask that another notice be sent out to the residents to see if, the second time around, do you get any more vehement reaction to the idea of striping, and then just try and diagnose where things stand at that point? Because maybe, there could be all kinds of reasons why people don't get notices. And I don't know how many people, seems like a pretty tight-knit community, and they rallied the troops to come out tonight, but maybe there's just another step that can be taken just to really check in with the good people that live in this neighborhood and see how they feel about the whole thing. Because to me, it's a coin toss. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it's going to look nice. I just don't know.
Yeah, if I could just quickly address that. If we were implementing a permanent change on the street, narrowing the actual roadway, changing the curbs, doing some significant permanent modification, then there would be probably multiple levels of input and mailers and community meetings and so forth. But since this is fairly benign, there's Triunfo Canyon Road, the residential portion right near Triunfo Park has this. Lakeview Canyon, several other streets. Jim only alluded to a few of them, and that the fact that this is just paint on the ground. This is not some sort of permanent barriers are being put or curb changing and so forth. So I guess based on those factors and the fact that the striping can be removed fairly easily as well, I guess we don't see the multiple layers of opportunity for input, since people had the opportunity to write, email in, attend via Zoom, attend in person, and so forth. So, and there will be, this project, as Chair Pletcher mentioned, will be going to the City Council for final approval, but that's the entire paving project with the entire package and everything, and the project's going out to bid at that point. So that's probably not the venue. That's why we have this venue here. That venue in City Council approving is probably not the venue to discuss changing the project, because then we're potentially risking, delaying the entire project over one area. And one of the reasons we've been able to resurface so much roadway is we get in early and we get contractors before it's too late in the spring and summer when they're too busy. So we kind of bid these jobs in the winter when these pavement contractors are looking for work. So having a delay at the end to try to go back and redesign something could potentially be impactful. But generally, the outreach that we've provided on this particular street is consistent with what we've done anytime we've had a relatively minor restriping proposal in the past, and they've been successful, as Jim mentioned.
Yeah, sure. And look, there's probably going to be some people that are look, the city's got to make a decision. There are going to be some people that are unhappy with it, and there are going to be people that are happy with it. And that's true for all of us, no matter what neighborhood we live in. So I guess, you'll take the comments that you heard tonight and digest them and come up with the best approach that you think is most appropriate. Thanks for your work.
Commissioner Callahan?
Just real quick, I think I'll close my final thoughts on it with a little bit more of a clear line of where I'm standing. I think I would like to see the speed come down, right? And I think this is an opportunity to take a step in that direction, right? And so knowing that we have this project coming up and that we don't have another alternative on the board right now to bring down speed, I think it's a step in the right direction. As our chair mentioned, there may be other layers, there may be other mechanisms, other things that are added on over time. But I think this is an opportunity to have this street tucked in as part of the repaving plan.
Thank you, Commissioner. No, I appreciate both my fellow commissioners' comments because it is really it is close. I'm generally, I'm generally supportive of what staff's plans are with the striping, but this is, I'm very much a yes, but also, because it really comes down to the interactions then between the neighbors and staff moving forward on feedback. Because I also know that doing this for, I can't think of how many years on both times I've been on this commission, how many restripings I've heard, but we've always been told from the beginning that this is an easy fix and we can stripe it back if the feedback comes in. So, hopefully this just opens up the lines of communication, and our staff is very receptive to feedback. So I will, I think, just leave it at that. Thank you very much for coming in this evening, and we'll go ahead and move on to item 7, which is our status report of prior Traffic Commission recommendations. I'll just go ahead and note that unless staff has any comments, but stop sign installations at our 12 intersections reviewed by our commission on April 26, 2023 were considered, and 2 of the 12 were approved by City Council on Campbell Avenue and Fordham, and Golden Crest Avenue and Aaron Leah Avenue. We have some work ahead of us. City Council also directed the Traffic Commission to evaluate road standards plate 3.3-10 for possible revisions. I did want to ask, just to confirm, on the restriping back in July, we did hear from Kathy Naum on Thousand Oaks Boulevard. If we could just get, is there any follow-up there on the Thousand Oaks Boulevard portion of the restriping?
Yeah, yes, Thousand Oaks Boulevard was in one of the preliminary lists of resurfacing as part of the 2024 citywide pavement project, but it has been removed for a variety of reasons, one of which is there's a major sewer rehabilitation project that needs to take place within that stretch of Thousand Oaks Boulevard, and also allowing the general plan to be completed and a subsequent specific plan amendment that likely needs to take place to match the Thousand Oaks Boulevard specific plan to the general plan. That will allow other alternatives such as potential bikes or loading zones or other restriping that may need to be included on Thousand Oaks Boulevard to be flushed out before we go ahead and construct those improvements. So that's been the Thousand Oaks Boulevard resurfacing has been pushed to 2026.
Perfect. Thank you. No other status reports. We'll go ahead and move on to Section 8, our commission referrals. We have none. And 9, work program and commission schedule. Were we going to discuss, oh no, it's future meetings. I apologize. I'm jumping ahead in my own notes. Work program commission schedule, we have none. Item 10, traffic commission comments and discussion. Any comments from fellow commissioners? I do have just one brief comment. Again, I'm very grateful for our new website on walking to school. I did just get an email shortly before our meeting from Lang Ranch Elementary. The PTA has put together on Wednesday, October 4th is actually National Walk to School Day. And the PTA has put together a walk to school day for Lang Ranch Elementary. Specifically, it says, join your friends and parents to celebrate the benefits of walking to school. Thousand Oaks police officers will be on campus to welcome you, and we look forward to seeing you on the sidewalks. From what I've heard from discussions with that elementary school, that this is a yearly tradition, and I'm just glad to see elementary schools kind of taking the initiative and running it through their PTA. And I'm planning to actually email this over to the city to be included up on the website in terms of just outreach, because I think it's a great thing. It's good to see Lang Ranch getting that process started. Moving to item 11, future meetings. Very light agenda in the future. We have our plate 3-10, which looking at winter 2023-2024. Probably with the new year and the reorg. So do we have any thoughts, comments about canceling our next 3 meetings? Okay, hearing none. Do we need a vote, Mr. Assistant City Attorney?
Yes, I would recommend doing a motion and a vote to cancel those, some or all of those meetings.
Perfect. Can I get a motion, please?
Okay. So
Commissioner.
thank you, Chair. I'll make a motion that the TTAC meeting scheduled for October 25th, 2023, November 22nd, 2023, and December 27th, 2023 shall be canceled. Next meeting adjourned, and then the next meeting to occur pursuant to notice.
Right, the next meeting would be the first regularly scheduled meeting in 2024.
January 2024, last Wednesday of the month. Try and be as specific. Yeah. The fourth. Yeah, to be super specific, it's the 4th Wednesday, not the last one. Okay.
Any discussion?
That work.
We pretty clear? Okay. I figured. Mrs. Vasquez, can you call the vote, please?
Commissioner Amell,
Yes.
Commissioner Callahan,
Yes.
and Chair Pletcher.
Yes.
Okay, so motion carries 3-0. Vice Chair Hayek and Commissioner Roscoe are absent.
Thank you, Mrs. Vasquez. And with that, we'll move on to item 12, meeting adjournment to our regularly scheduled meeting, January 2024, the 4th Wednesday of January 2024. Thank you very much for coming out tonight.